Okay, one more minute, we should be on air.
Okay. I mute myself there.
I can use my iPhone also.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to everybody that's with us this morning. My name is Nurliz. I'm the CEO of Urbanice Malaysia. And today you are joining us actually for this pre-event for our Malaysia Urban Forum 2020. Urbanice is actually a company limited by guarantee under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government. And our core agenda of the COA is to look into the interests of how we build sustainable communities and cities for Malaysia. So Malaysia Urban Forum is one of the platform where we provide a platform for discussion, for sharing, yeah, for progress update on how all stakeholders are addressing the sustainable agenda for our country. So one of the things that we discussed last year, actually in MUF2020, was on age-friendly cities. And we actually, it was an elders dialogue. We had a session just for elders dialogue, which was a key stakeholder in our MUF2019. And very surprisingly, we had tremendous amount of participants. So I think this is a sign that everyone is very concerned, because as you know, Malaysia with 60 years and above, this year alone in 2020, we have almost 2.3 million of people at the age of 65 years and above. And for 60 years and above, we have 3.5 million, which is 10% of our Malaysian population. And if we equate that with the urbanization rate, means people living in cities, which is now about 77%, we have a huge population of almost 1.8 million people living in urban areas. So these numbers may be small compared to 32 million population, but what is also something that we need to that based on the very slow growth that Malaysia is going through, which is now about 0.4% of annual growth rate, we might have a situation which we are actually already facing, where aging population is more than children below the age of 5. So, that's actually an important point to note, because that means to say over time, we will have lesser younger generation, more older generation. But whether we are ready, whether our built environment are ready, whether our policies are ready, how do we address the economy of the elder people is something that I think needs a very solid discussion. So today we are going to be discussing on this very topic on how to make cities more age-friendly. And we would like, this is a pre-event actually to our Malaysia Urban Forum. And Malaysia Urban Forum will be on the 28th to 30th of September. And during that forum, what we hope to achieve is to have an action plan on a decade of healthy aging society. Is one of our goals that what is our plan towards having a decade of healthy aging nation or society for Malaysia. So with me today, actually, I have people who are passionate about this subject in their work, in the work that they do daily. They have touched base on these issues, you know, and they are going to be sharing with you and also with us on actually what are the concerns, what their work, you know, what have they been doing in these areas as well. Because I think the time for us to talk about high level policies, if it's not there, of course, yes, it must be done. But we are also more concerned about what local action should we do. So we have our panelists here today. So we have architect Mustafa Kamal, we have Associate Professor Dr. Siti Anom, and we also have Mr. Darren Terrence here. As I go through the session, I will be introducing them more to you. So what will happen in the next 2 hours, or we will be going through a discussion. We have 3 rounds of discussion, and this is so that we could keep to the time. And in the first round, we'll be touching base on policies and legislation. On the second round, we'll be touching base on the infrastructure. And on the third round, we'll be talking more on the psychological well-being of our elderly people living in urban areas. So we really hope that people that has yes, we see a full house here this morning. Thank you very much. We hope you will also send us your query, your question, your views also, or even share us your experience through the chat room. And we also have a Q&A room there that you could either or send your questions or your sharing with us. So I think I would like to move on, you know, because I think it's very important that we proceed with the session this morning. And in this first round, we will be discussing a lot about policies and legislations. So I think with regards to policies, legislation, these are important because it is the enabling provision that allows us to do what we want to do. Even if in the academia, even in terms of the built environment, you know, these will be some of the things that in order for us to realize our actions, we do need policies, legislations, and regulations. In fact, it's one of our key pillars in the new urban agenda, where we do need policies to support the implementation of issues that are very important to each city. So I would like to bring on board our first panelist, and Kyria Talha. You know, she's a friend of mine, a sister actually. She's a registered town planner, experience both in government and public sector. She was also our first woman resident in the Malaysian Institute of Planners, and currently she's the advisor on the advisory board of Kuala Lumpur City Hall, and she also is the honorary president of Europe. She has spoken in many conferences. She's a very vocal person in her views. She's very passionate about people, and her expertise is in planning. Is actually in planning, litigations, and advocacy. So probably I like to listen to Puan Karya, or I call her Kak Yong, her views on the subject that we are talking. And of course, in particular, as you are a practicing planner, you are a stakeholder as well, and you are a caregiver. So probably your views on this, Puan Karya.
Puan Karya, you need to unmute the.
All right, right. Okay.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction, Lisa. And yeah, sorry for that, because I'm a certified warga emas, as you can see from my card. So there's no doubt I'm 64 years old and I'm caring for an 86-year-old mother. And if I forget to mute or unmute, apologies, the brain cells deteriorate, So anyway, I have a set of slides. So the first one I'd like to go through, if you can start the slide, is the second one, please, is on, really on, next one, please, is on age fallacies, the policy and legislation. Now, sorry, the next one, the first one. Bukan. The first one today, round one. Previous slide, please. Previous slide. Sorry, I don't have control of my slides, but if you can, someone who is controlling it? Okay. Now, we under the Persons with Disabilities Act 2008, yeah, it was introduced in Malaysia. It defined persons with disabilities as persons with physical, physical, mental, and so you can read that, intellectual disabilities that hinder them from fully participation in normal way of life. The elderly are not included in the definition. They're not included in the definition. So whereas the elderly, I'm 64, but I'm going to be like really, really disabled with very weak knees, and I can't walk. I've got lots of diseases, whatever. I need a wheelchair. My mom needs a wheelchair, but we are not included in the definition. And therefore, we cannot have the right to have those stickers, right? Next slide, please. We cannot have the disabled car stickers. Hence, we cannot park near to entrances of buildings. And without the stickers, most of our elderly cars will be fined or clamped and reduce access and mobility. And as you know, when you have wheelchair in the car, like when I take up the wheelchair, I have to put it on, place it on, and get my mom in. If we are not, we have not parked in the elderly bay, in the PWB bays, we cannot maneuver our wheelchairs, right, for our elderly people. So we need that amendment to that legislation. I want the ministry, whichever ministry is responsible, to look into that fact. Next slide, please, very quickly. Now, there are many examples in other countries, yeah, that allow both disabled PWDs and senior adults, right? Handicap or elderly, these are the signs, and we can all use that provision. Okay, the second issue that I like to cover, next please, under legislation, next slide, please, is on financial support, yeah? Do we have the next slide? Issue 2 in financial support. In Malaysia, thank goodness, there is a monthly living wage of 300 given to elderly citizens who do not have a source of income for family and family members, right, to provide and care for them. And these are the people who can apply and the documents needed for application. But really, if you look at the documents for application, you're 60 or above, you don't have a job, and yet you still want the income statement or letter of confirmation from employers, income declaration. Isn't that working against the elderly? It makes it so difficult for the elderly to get that financial support from the ministry, okay? But on the other hand, you have the next slide, sir. So on the other hand, we have family members or caregivers who are eligible for respite care, but this is only a temporary duration. They're given to minimum of 1 day or maximum of 30 days. No, no payment needed, but you have to apply to the State Welfare Office. Well and good, but I think I've not applied for this because I can still give care for my aged mom. However, you know, it's maybe difficult to get, I'm not sure, but we ought to give it a try. The next slide shows a Singapore's example of financial assistance for the elderly. There are more than these three. I'm just taking up three of them: EASE, SMF, and IDATE. I won't go into it, but really, the first one says subsidies for home modifications so that seniors can live at ease in their homes. They don't need to go up. And seniors, I can tell you, if they even walk on a walking stick, some are the opal with anything else, you know. So children who are taking care of aged parents who have to go into the bathroom with the parents, you need bigger doors, you need wider doors. And it's difficult when two people walking at the same time into the bathroom to help the elderly persons, right? Even the elderly person. So you have home modification that includes slip-resistant treatment of floor tiles, grab bars, ramps up and down, yeah? So there's so many financial assistance. Now, the next slide shows examples in the US and Canada that actually gives financial assistance for home renovation. Now, if you want, I'm sure Dr. herself can vouch for the fact that elderly who lives in their own home, right, fare better than perhaps care elderly homes, yeah? So it's best for, and my reading of a lot of the elderlies is that it's better psychologically for them to live with where they are in their homes or the children's home. But they do need ramps, they do need wider doors. So giving financial assistance for these modifications to the home is far better than giving cash to the elderly, yeah, for their maintenance. Really, 300 cash per year, per month may not be enough, but never mind, it will help. Issue number 3 I like to bring up here is care homes for the elderly. Now, I need planners, especially local authority and those in consultancy, to allow for the change of use of buildings, especially residential buildings, to be turned as care homes for the elderly, and include these into the land use class order in the local plan. Now, every local plan and every planner would know you can identify housing areas which we know have an aging population. Allow these in the use class order. And we should anticipate, because Panolisa mentioned there are more elderly people now than there are 5-year-olds. So the need for kindergartens, for childcare centers may be reduced in the future, or they move to the new housing areas, yeah, where there are young people, but where there are existing ones, to allow this to be turned for elderly care homes. It's already happening in Germany, in Japan, and all that. So we ought to anticipate that, yeah? So that's all for my round 1 about legislation, about policy and guidelines. I've got more to say in round 2. Thank you, Nelisa.
Thank you, Puan Khairia. I think that is not only at a speed, she have identified 3 key issues, but it's really on point, exactly to what issues we are facing today. So I'd like to go straight to Associate Professor Dr. Siti Anom. When we first heard about Dr. Siti, we just found out that University Putra Malaysia actually have this My Aging, which is a Malaysian research institute on aging, and I mean it's very hopeful. I felt not only hopeful, but I felt very glad that there's actually a research center doing research on age and age people. So but your background is even more interesting because you are engineer by training, and your PhD is on electrical and electronics. But now your key interest is on biomedical engineering and geron technology. So really amazing. I never know such kind of specialty exists also. So tell us, Dr. Siti, in the work that you do, I tried to get more research on what My Aging is doing, but probably not all the research are in the webpage, But tell us in the research that you are doing, especially with regards to policy legislations, how much of work is supporting that the writing of the policies, or rather on the other hand, how much of what you're trying to do is not, you can't proceed because there's no enabling policy. So, from that point of view first.
Okay, thank you, Madam Noriza, for the kind introduction, and also thank you very much for all the attendees. I'm Siti Anu Ahmad from Malaysian Research Institute on Aging. So, actually, this institute has been around since 2002, but we've been upgraded to become National Institute in 2015, and our main focus is to carrying research and services related to aging, or in scientific work we call it as gerontology. Gerontology is meaning research for aging. And we have three main areas in my aging, which the first one is social gerontology. So what we are doing here covers financial, psychological, and legislation, policies, all under social gerontology. And then we also have medical gerontology. As we know, as we grow, as we age, one of the main issues is mental health. So we have this area too, covering this area too. And the third one is gerontology. So we provide assistance on assistive devices, as what been mentioned by Madam Haria just now. So we need all the elderly, most of them require assistive devices. And we want to provide smart technology, smart approach to assist them. So I think in support to what Puan Noliza have mentioned earlier about the statistics of older persons in Malaysia, I think I would like to share, may I share my screen? Just 2 slides on our statistics of older populations in Malaysia.
Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
Okay. So I hope everybody can see the slide. So this is our country. Just now, Madam Noliza has mentioned that in our country, the population of older persons is 7% from total population. So we said our country now is, we can say it as aging society. Okay, where we have about from 10 people in Malaysia, one of them is an older person. So this is the current statistics. But okay, from these plots here, okay, now we are here 2020, we are aging society, and it is projected that by 2045, our country will older population, there will be about 15%. So in the WHO definition, UNFPA definition, by 15%, our country can be considered as aged society. So, of course, government has conducted lots of initiatives to support active aging, productive aging. So, and of course, today we are here for the Urban Forum. So, this is one of the initiatives for our preparation to become aged society in the future. So, that's all about the statistics. Okay, and then of course we know to do this urban city. So we don't have the country. We still don't have a national framework for local governments to begin developing the initiative. So I think Urbanice have started a very good program for us to inform, to spread the news, to spread the initiative to the whole country. So, how I go back here with it. So, and then this is why should cities, why should cities become more aged friendly? So at my aging, we also involved with, I don't know if you have heard about this, we are the consultant for the age friendly cities in Taipei. So there are we are follow this guideline. So we have to prepare the cities and then to foster healthy aging and reduce inequalities. So I think this relate to what Madam Haria mentioned just now. There is no special parking slot for older persons. We have for disabled, but not for older persons. and design and adapt natural and built environment for residents of all ages with different capacities, where we are committed in creating this age-friendly community, barrier-free, designed for diversity, inclusive and cohesive, and benefiting all ages. And that the last one that we can do, we should enhance the solidarity among generation within communities and facilities. So all these are based on WHO in developing age-friendly cities, and this one will be implemented as our pilot project in Taipei. Okay, that's all from me. I hope I have given
All right.
sufficient insight about our institute.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, knowing that you've been in existence since 2002, that's good to know, I think, and I think we should know more about what you're doing. So, but I think, thank you for that insights. Let's move on to architect Mustafa Kamal. I mean, he's a practicing architect. I've known him for many years, but he's been practicing for 27 years. He's a fellow of Pertubuhan Architect Malaysia, been on council for 6 terms. But I think more interestingly is what he now is very passionate about, which is about urban resilience, and he's very active, participating, contributing, and Puan Karya was saying that he sees Mustafa in so many webinars, but I think he's trying to make a point that, if someone doesn't say it, I'll say it. So I think I'm very happy to have Mustafa here, and being an architect, and probably moving into the aging society. Dr. Siti have already nicely put us in our age bracket, aging society, super age society. I don't think we live to see that, but and the fact that now being an architect, how do you foresee, especially with regards to the WHO, the age-friendly cities? There are the 8 parameters that WHO has identified. So from built environment point of view, how do you see urban planning, architecture, urban design being responsive towards aging society?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Urbanice, for allowing me to spare some moments to actually share what I have. Basically, what I'm going to share is actually from my own experience from not just practicing as an architect, but also as a seller and dealer of even medical devices for elderly and handicapped people, as well as caring for a parent, a father who is lost his 2 feet 30 years ago. So I know how it is to actually get around cities, get around places from the house, the last mile, the first mile. So it is actually where it all should begin. So just like in TOD, you have the first mile, last mile. So this is actually the first mile and last mile for a person to handle. So that means from the eyes. So before that, I would like to share some slides so that we can actually make the discussion more fruitful. So okay, with that, just now Puan Noliza was talking about the 8 items in aged city design, and true enough that WHO has actually identified the 8 parameters. So these are the 8 parameters that we should be looking at: the outdoor spaces, buildings, transportation, housing, social environment, culture, mental well-being, communication, information. But being an architect and also an urban planner, I would like to only touch on the first 3 because that one really touched a person as a physical thing. So built environment for an aged person to actually involve not just whatever is in the building, it also must have the neighborhood, it must have a street. So that's the reason why outdoor spaces, buildings, transportation, and housing are the most core component that a person will have to live in and out almost every day. So under the outdoor spaces, I think we need to look at the condition, the quality, the design, the physical environment, parks, sidewalks, buildings that has significant influence on mobility, independence, as well as quality of life. Why I'm touching about this question of independence, elderly people don't like to be guided whenever they want to make any move. They want that independence, and the design must provide that independence for them to go on with their life. That is the part that we need to champion, and we need to do in all our urban, all our buildings, all our outdoor spaces, to provide that independence from them. Okay, only at certain times they like to be pushed around, but most of the time they want to do it independent. Just like Madam was trying to say, when they go to the bank, the things must be there. The stationaries, how far they can read, the +1, +2, -1, -2 glasses must be at the counter. Then, when you talk about transportation, you have to have these things which is, how should I say, more like accessibility. And they must be in control of the accessibility in the sense that they must have information. When is the timetable? What time the next bus come, or the next LRT come, or the next train, or even the next ride come? Because right now, many cities are having this elderly and handicapped assistance vehicle. Then you need to have good station. That means to say that you cannot just be chichai. You must be very good and very educate. And you must provide safety and comfort. Of course, when you have the equipment, you have the transportation, you must have friendly drivers. No point you have all these gadgets, but the drivers are not helpful, not friendly, not making people at ease. And then in the transportation itself, you must have priority seating. Then you must have specialized service. And the service also must be reliable and frequent, together with affordability. And in the local area or local cities, you must have a well-maintained support or well-maintained infrastructure in order for it to be smooth. Of course, just now, Madam was talking about parking. So priority parking is very important. So these are the things that we have to look under transportation. Then under housing, so appropriate housing is not good housing, right? It's appropriate housing, and it must be in a proper location. You don't tell me all elderly must duduk di ceruk kampung somewhere. No, they also want to be in the city. The reason why they want to be in the city because they don't feel safe. So we need to provide that sort of design that is location safe. Then it must be affordable, easily modified, community education, and then you must have the essential services, and it must have low maintenance. And these two items which are very crucial under this design, it not just be universal design, okay? It must be a friendly design. If you have a good universal design, but it's not friendly, nobody will appreciate, and it creates more harmful to the elderly or aged society people to use. And it must be comfortable for the community to actually use also. So some of the items, in graphics form, because as architect and urban plan, we cannot avoid showing you pictures and diagrams. So these are the pleasantness. You must have a secure environment, and then you must have good walkways and no obstruction. Suddenly, you have a guidance block that's actually right in the middle. It's actually a lamppost or a traffic light, and you must have non-slip. And then you must have properly designated and properly calming of the traffic, and also good safety with lighting control, so people can see the elderly who is walking. So good lighting must be there, and then you must have good ramps, railings, and because they are elderly, this is something that we forgot to provide. They need to go to the toilet more frequent than us, the young. So we have to be position this in properly well-maintained convenient location. So these are some of the road section. Although these are some wide roads, but when you come to narrow roads, you have to actually make do and redesign it so that it can fit all this. So you really must have these three properly identified zone: furnishing zone, pedestrian zone, and frontage zone. So you cannot have all these campur aduk. You must have clearly defined so that the elderly feel at ease, comfort, and safe to walk. Okay. So these are the things that I've spoken just now. So we need to have this reliability of transportation. Okay, so this I already have spoken. So some of the graphics here, see. So the drivers, friendly drivers to help you in and out. You know, the devices, as a doctor was saying, so they have their own door, and the width of the door is very crucial, properly labeled and marked. And they want to enjoy the nature, they want to enjoy the park. So we need to provide those access, and we need to provide those type of mobility devices. Okay, so some of part of the housing, we need to give them this beauty as well as convenience. You know, I think one of the most celebrated and the most that won the World Building Award in 2019 is the Admiralty Square in or Kampung Admiralty in Singapore, where they have 3 different government departments that deal with the social things. There's a hospital there. So you have multi-level ground floor, so everybody can have ground floor for elderly, for the handicapped, and for public. So it's a must. If you all go to Singapore, you have to look at this. And this is just like another mini kampung, but in a high-rise situation. So I think that's my take for the moment until we go to the next round.
Thank you, Mus. Thank you for the sharing and the slides that you shared with us. Yeah, you know, I think it's very important. You know, when you travel abroad, you see a lot of aging society, age people on the streets, you know, and you're wondering why in some cities there are more aged people outdoor. But I think the key word you mentioned just now, allowing them to be independent, I think that's very important. When they are independent, they feel that it's safe, it's comfortable, then they, you know, they can enjoy life. And not only enjoy life, they can contribute back to society, yeah, or even the local economy. Yeah. So I think we'd like to move on to our 4th panelist, and very interestingly, we have Terence Douglas. Why I say the word interesting is because I find that, Darren, you are young and you are involved in this agenda, you know, and you are the president of the Association of Aged Care Operators of Malaysia, or AgeCOP. And I read about AgeCOP. You know, I think it's what you're trying to do is it's really great. You know, trying to establish not only the network of the operators, but also setting some form of standards and best practices for the operators to sort of self-regulate themselves, you know. So I'm sure since you are setting up, I'm sure you have many challenges. I think if I was to send you a list to fill in, you will have a lot of things to say. So probably first on legislation, regulations, you know, how have that helped you with what you do, or how has it been a stumbling block to what you are trying to do here, you know? So yeah, your views, Darren.
Okay. A very good morning to everyone, to the 96 participants out there. I may look young, but I just turned 50 years old last month. So in 10 years' time, I'll be in the aged population group also.
You awet muda lah, Darren.
Thank you. I'm 50 years old. I think I'm also older than Professor Dr. Siti Anom.
Yes. I'm
so she's the younger one here. Yeah,
yes,
she's slightly younger.
Not that young. 40s also, 40s already.
So I feel the legislation has been a hindrance, a red tape across the board throughout the nation. Why I say that? Because the best example was this morning. I had a call from Malacca. A pusat jagaan from Malacca gave me a call this morning. He was trying to apply for a license for his pusat jagaan. He had the PBT, the town council, already approved his premises. The bomba came, already approved his premises. The kesihatan came and approved his premises. And the only person standing in his way was JKM. Normally, When all the other licenses have been approved, JKM will automatically issue. But this time, JKM don't want to issue. When I asked him, why doesn't he want to issue? Or in this case, a she, why doesn't she want to issue? And the reason was, because I'm using hospital beds in the home. I did not put up walls, I put up curtains to separate the rooms. But these are not reason that is in the Akta or the Watakan, or this is only this particular JKM officer putting her views or her thinking that how a home should be and imposing it on a pusat jagaan. So these are the red tapes that we come across, and even though he has complied to all, putting such hindrance just makes all those people give up in applying for license. And I cannot blame why we have so many unlicensed homes when even simple tasks of everybody has approved and your job is just to issue the license, but you just want to stop the license from being issued. So that is what I face when it comes to legislation. When it comes to helping the elderly across the board, I think what Encik Mustafa had said just now was very relevant when he said you have to have integrated government departments helping each other, like what Singapore did when they had 3 ministries or departments helping to set up for the elderly. What we lack here is education, meaning our education ministry has not come up with syllabus like our time when we have civics. We don't have it now. We have Pendidikan Moral, but it doesn't cater for the elderly. There's no clear guide. How do you treat the elderly? How do I treat the elderly with respect? There's no clear, and you expect parents to teach this. Parents sometimes don't have the time, and they expect the teachers to teach this. And when we had civics in our youth time, civics help us to be better Malaysians now. So we should have that civics things or that moral that caters to how you treat the elderly in our education ministry. And we have to involve the transport ministry, because everything, all the good wiser people, panelists here have all stated transportation, whether it's public transport, self-driving. We have to get the transport ministry involved. We may also need to get the economic ministry involved, because a lot of this costs money and it involves funding, or the finance ministry. We also need to get the housing ministry involved, because everything we dealt just now dealt with housing. We were talking about converting houses to be aged friendly, and it costs a lot to convert them to be aged friendly. But why not we start from the bottoms up? Make all homes aged friendly from the very beginning, meaning houses you build today, make it aged friendly, so that when the time comes, you don't have to convert again, cost money to convert it again to, oh, I must have this, I must have that. Why not make it from now? Every developer start having building housing that are aged friendly from the very start.
Yeah.
So that's my take on legislation. Then it comes to the aged. Now you have 65 years old, some say 60 years old are senior citizens, but the senior citizens who are able to take care of themselves, they will be around 60 to maybe 80, maybe 85. After that, a lot of them needs someone to care for them, because many of them may not be able to take care of themselves. They may be demented, they may have other symptoms that, or their legs are too weak to go about. So they need someone to push them around or take care of them. But what we see now is we do not have the legislation, the government helping us to get licenses for pusat jagaan, one. We do not have tamans that open up ready-made with a pusat jagaan within the taman. Or some PBT, local governments, do not even have, for every 10,000 citizens, you have one pusat jagaan. You don't have. So what we have is Taska. They are so keen to approve Taska. They said every taman should have one Taska. Every 10,000 citizens should have one Taska. But no one is saying that every taman should have one pusat jagaan. Then it comes to KL, cities, JB, KL, Penang. Now you have cities whereby you do not have new tamans coming up. You have condominiums. one whole block of condominium can even have 10,000 people. One block, you have like 900 units. And if each unit have 4% or what, you may have 1,000 there. And then another block, block A, block B, block C. So you may have even 10,000 people in one area. But do you have a pusat jagaan there? Many times they allow a condominium downstairs to have daycare center for kids, but nobody is keen to approve daycare center for elderly downstairs of the condominium. We may need to have such rules because we do not have new tamans in KL especially. Everything is pushed to Selangor. Everything is pushed to PJ. And you have an abundance of homes, pusat jagaan in PJ or all over Subang Jaya, but you don't have in Kuala Lumpur. You know why? Because no one is thinking about having a pusat jagaan for elderly in KL. And how do you have it in KL? No more new taman, approved condominiums. You may have to come to that. Our aged population is increasing so fast, we may not be ready if we do not start from now. So Ministry of Housing plays an important role. So have I taken up so much time? Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
probably we can, you want to add something?
Okay,
Yeah.
last one. When you talk about green spaces just now, you need the community to have the old people to come out to be able to walk around. But we also need the places where the community, aged people can meet each other easily. We want them to come together. We do not want the aged people can come out, but they are alone. I come out, okay, yeah, okay, I'm out. So what do I do next? We can come to provide green spaces within an area whereby they can come there, they can do their Tai Chi, they can do the exercise together. Communities can come together, and we may need to provide transportation for them that they can come there if we are looking in the long term. Okay, I stop here. I'll keep the rest for the later sessions.
Thank you, Darren. I think very two important takeaways that you, from your first intervention, you know. One is having the integrated government departments looking at the issue, you know, echoing what Architect Mustafa was saying. I think that's very important. And also the lack of standards. We don't have proper standards actually to regulate the requirements. So I also see some comments which are echoing what panelists have been talking since morning just now. So let's move on to the second session. In the second session, we are going to discuss a little bit about infrastructure. And where actually some of the panelists have actually already touched on this issue. But let's be more specific because I think this is very important, especially when if you want people to be outdoor, if you want people to be independent, therefore it is the right infrastructure must be there. It's not just providing transportation. You know, I would love to see as an image, you know, I mean, we are all already going in that age, you know, we be able to walk freely. I mean, today I just walked 2 blocks from Menara UOA to where I am now. The walkways are actually, it's so high, you know, and for elderly people, even 6 inches curb is an effort. So I had to walk on the road, you know, because I was carrying quite a few luggage bags, you know. So these are simple things, but very important for when people get older. I think this is where the Mustafa showed some image on infrastructure, but you know, probably a discussion from planning wise, architecture wise, new technologies, research or innovation that could be rolled out, sandboxes that could be rolled out, you know, and addressing everything that Darren is trying to make a point just now, all his frustrations. How can we all help him, you know, and in providing that built environment infrastructure that can really make people more independent, elderly people more independent. And what is also important to address is my worry is that as you grow old, then you have elderly, poor people. So it is something to consider, you know. Singapore has marvelous infrastructure to assist elderly people to get jobs, retrain them, you know, skills training. So where are also we on this subject of the soft infrastructure, not only the hard infrastructure, but also in terms of the soft infrastructure. So probably one more round among all the panelists. I open it now. Anyone wants to go first?
Can I go first? Okay. Talking about infrastructure, right? Just now I showed some slides about roads. Okay, I think I'll just show back the slide about roads, because this is very crucial, because this is the most, how should I say, the most area that we will be touching, and also people will have to use. Okay, I think I use this one much better. Not this one. Okay. For an elderly person to be independent, right? To be independent, many things have got to be provided, or rather designed for. Okay, so first, when they walk, you know, when you are elderly, right? When you want to walk, every part of your body is actually feel aching. So you must have a good surface which is even, which is not undulating. It has to be even. My father always tell me, this space, or rather this surface, is actually not flat. I said it's flat. No, it is not flat, because there are some which is actually sunken, some is, so that is very crucial. So we need to have a very stable surface. The next one is, because they are elderly, they have to focus more. You know, as you get older, you're focusing to do a single task is much more greater than previously. When you're young, you can actually have multitasking. So you really have got to ensure that this is very, very crucial. The next one is, you must provide the environment that people really respect the person who is actually elderly walking. Okay, why I'm saying that is this, in Malaysia, there is, I'm not sure, but in Ministry of Transport, or rather if I refer to a country, right, in Taiwan, the bigger vehicle respect the smaller vehicle. So that means to say that if you are a car, you have to respect the cyclist, you have to respect the person on the wheelchair, you must respect the person with the crutches. So that means to say, if anything happened to that person, which is you behind it, you are actually responsible, regardless whether you are right or wrong. You are wrong first, because you didn't ensure that that person who's using the wheelchair, who's using the electrical device, or using the crutches, feels safe. So that's the reason why I was talking about friendly, and also not just universal design. It has to be caring. So this is very, very crucial. And another part is the way that people look at the other elderly person in the environment will have to change, so that they are more, how shall I say, sensitive. So that's the reason why a lot of elderly people want independence, so that they also be like other people. So those are the things that I would like to highlight, and that's very crucial. First things, that one must be set right first. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Musa. I think, yeah, how do we design a caring city? You know, how do we design roads with more passion? In Australia, they have the shared road concept, and that's where exactly you find people respecting, from big cars, smaller cars, motorcyclists, bicycle, until walking. Yeah? So okay,
can I go on to my next slide, Lisa, which talks a lot, and I'm illustrating also a lot about the infrastructure for age-friendly cities, why universal design is important, and I'm going to show some real examples of what has been taking place in our cities and what some of the issues are. Can I go next slide, please? And next. Okay, we have already Malaysian Standard Code of Practice on access for disabled persons. Now, this calls for a lot of access for PWDs, which actually elderly can also follow. It's got all the Malaysian standards way back, you know, you've got since 1991, the amendments have been done. Next slide, please. And yet, let's go to look at our city's external built environment. And I tell you, these are some of the reasons why the elderly, next slide, please, tend to live within their homes and not go out. The first photo on the left top corner, this is at the Lake Gardens, you know, and I was taking my mom out, and then you find the grating really fitting into the wheelchair wheel, which can go, the grating goes lengthways, you know. What is so easy to just put it the other way around, so wheelchairs, cyclists, and even prams can go straight through without catching the wheels onto this grating. And you find other, and these are new developments. Hello, some of the longkang are there without proper covering, and then you have a nice walkway, but that at the end of it is all blocked, and then we have the engineering gutter, whatever you call it. So again, proves the fact that engineers, planners, architects are not designing things together at an integrated manner to provide access for the disabled. Now, even prams, even if you're pushing your baby chair, all right, through across this, it's going to damage not only the baby chair, but it's such a hindrance. It's not really friendly at all. Next, please. And yet we have our Merdeka slogan this year that says, Masyarakat Prihatin. Now, the left one is a picture in KL. Yes, they sloped the pedestrian walkway, but lo and behold, someone decided to put all these barriers. Of course, they don't want to. They want to prevent motorcyclists and hawkers, you know, roadside hawkers from coming onto the pavement and doing the business there. But hello, where's the access for the wheelchair or for the elderly? And then you find this very new development, which is in Penang, right in front of the Setia, what do you call that, Spice Convention Center. You have a crossing there, but lo and behold, a high curb that actually even I may have problems lifting my knee up to go on top there, and there's no pedestrian connectivity. Next, please. These are prime examples which I've taken myself because I walk the city a lot. And the left one is supposed to be a bus stop, which will take you onto a bus, which the bus has a sign that says that it is wheelchair friendly. It's got wheelchair, but hello, how is the wheelchair going to go on the bus when the curb is so high and there's no ramp down? And you find the one on the right-hand side. Yes, some effort has been made to make the city of Georgetown elderly friendly, disabled friendly, pram friendly, pusher friendly, but then someone decides to put a big nice pot in front of it, which actually curbs the movement of people in wheelchairs and the elderly on their canes, you know, walking. Next, please. Next slide, thank you, quickly, next slide, thank you. Then I want to ask Architect Mustafa, where in the world, no, the previous one, I want the previous one, please, the shop house. Now, look at every one of our shop house. Can you change the slides, Shafiq? Then one next, sebelum ni. Okay, this one, everywhere you go, shop lots. From the car park, it's got a curb that goes up and then another curb that goes up to demarcate the drain, and then another curb that goes up to demarcate the 5-foot way, and another curb that goes up into the shop. Many times. And now on the right hand side, there is a new development, very latest. It's selling, but again you find curbs going into the shops. Now, when you're old, and I can tell you, you cannot walk. What you do is shuffle. And you know what shuffling is? Hello, guys. Shuffling is where you shuffle your feet. You actually slide, you know, shortly. Next slide, please. Now, next slide. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. Here am I, my 62-year-old sister, no, 63 at that time, and myself. Oh no, don't move too fast, Shafiq. Thank you very much. The previous slide. Thank you, Shafiq, please. That shows how susah nak change. Kenapa? And that shows how, and this is a new LRT station. We were dropped off from one southern road. We have to actually trail our bags, lift it up onto the median curb, back down, and what do we find across the across the pedestrian walkway? A gardenia lorry truck, delivering. Whereas that's actually a delivery area. Next, please. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, what does this mean? Mobility, access for all, especially the elderly, is actually for our independence. We want to be active. We want to be connected. We want to be confident, and we want to be in control, just what Mustafa said earlier on. But with all these things, next please, what I've showed you, and there are thousands of other examples, and what Lisa also mentioned about road curb being high, there have been some examples, good examples, I must tell you. The right-hand side is in Georgetown, one part which is they've really done well. And the next one was in Solaris. I was there. It's very easy for me to cross, for elderly or PWDs to cross. This goes to show the previous one that really architects, developers, contractors are not abiding with the MS standards. The legislation is there. The guidelines are there. But hello, who actually audits this kind of things? When contractors are building it, I can tell you, and I've been into Putrajaya, for example. I've walked Putrajaya. Even in Putrajaya, there are drops in curbs. There are drops even when there are crossings, It's not smooth as what we want it to be. So if I'm in a wheelchair, God forbid, but anyway, if one day I'm in a wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair, or pushing myself, I wouldn't be able to cross or climb the curb. Getting down is okay, but getting up is not. Next slide, please. So again, what needs to be done? We need more trainers, people who are aware of these kind of things. Next slide, please. Yeah, look at the cities, and Lisa has mentioned about Australia, about New Zealand. These are pictures from there. My favorite city of Melbourne. Look at how the curb is so wide. Everybody can just walk along that. But even you take your child into subway, just stroll in. Even you're on a wheelchair, on a self-electric mobile wheelchair, which you're operating yourself, you can just simply go into the shop, right, and do your shopping. You don't need to climb another 5 centimeter level to go into the shops. This gives independence. And if you're on a cane, you might get your cane caught in the curb or the rise in the floor. Next, please. Or even fall, God forbid. Okay, next, please. So these are really cities which are so, how to say, caring for all groups, are so inclusive. And, like I said, next, please. Examples, this is in Newcastle, next, please. And so they do that. Their contractors, their builders are well trained. Now, we're talking about transportation. This is already here. These examples are already here. We want to be mobile. We want to be independent. We want to drive ourselves back and forth and meet our friends and all that in the street, in the parks, So are we catering for this kind of mobile vehicles? Next, please. And very quickly, we want to allow for this kind of transportation. Shopping. You can even take your mobile scooters into supermarkets, yeah? This is, of course, overseas. I'm sure if I go into Giant or Tesco with these kind of things, I'll be shooed out. No, you're not allowed these kind of things. You got to walk in. But being independent, psychologically, it helps me as an elderly person. It helps, really gives me self-esteem to shop things for myself. And these are allowed in supermarkets. We have to have guidelines and legislation that allow for greater mobility. Not just external, Mustafa, not just design, but I'm talking practicality here. We want to go to these places. From the parking, zoom in, right? Adalah laju-laju sangat, we cannot go that fast, but but really slowly. Next, please. And
I used to sell this.
And there you go. I need one soon, to go on my surau and all that. They're not that expensive nowadays, Next, please. Next slide,
Foldable
please.
too.
Yeah, and services, mobile services for the elderly to go to the hospitals or to visit friends or whatever. These are services provided, especially in UK. I know because I once lived in a very elderly neighborhood. My neighbors, when they want to go to hospitals, these vans come in and they're provided by the local authority. Now, we could have something like this, but using similarly like Grab, call, and they come, you know, but allow, and ministry, you're right, Ministry of, Delvin was saying, Ministry of Transport has to come into this, allow for this. There is one service in Kuala Lumpur called Makcik Travels, and they have given, but they use cars, companions. Okay, you can go Google that, Makcik Travels. They give companions to accompany old folks to go shopping, provided if it's a lady, they provide lady driver, if it's a guy driver, the Makcik Travels provide this kind of services for the elderly. Next, please. Okay, now we ought to look forward. We ought to prepare for this kind of things, but are we prepared? Okay, then I leave it at that. This is round 3, which about dealing with psychological well-being. Thank you very much, Lisa and audience.
Thank you, Kayo, for Kairia. Maybe Darren or Prof. Siti wants to share on, especially maybe Dr. Siti from new technologies. Or Darren, let's go ahead.
Okay. So besides the education ministry to educate people again, we will also add in another ministry, the Ministry of Multimedia, to start highlighting all these issues again, like those short 20 seconds, 30 seconds program about civic consciousness. Now, when we talk about shuffling, just now Puan Khaira, she took away one of my points about shuffling, because I want to talk about traffic lights. When we talk about transportation, when we want it to be crossing, we have zebra crossings, but the traffic lights are too fast. They cater for people who are young to cross the street, but they do not cater for old people, elderly people who have to shuffle. So when you cross the street, you may only reach halfway before the lights turn green, and then you have to wait another round to fully cross the road. So we have to look at this. And you say we want to put a flyover, a pedestrian bridge, how many old people can walk up that bridge and walk over? Now in KL, we have a lot of escalators to go up. There have not been any thoughts anywhere in the world, for the matter, to do escalator or travelator that we have in the airports around the city. You know, like you want to go from one gate A to gate B of the airport, or from where you go in, and you have a lot of travelators along the way. You just stand on it, they carry you about, and then you walk a bit. There's none that I see in KL, even though KL is very user-friendly to the pedestrians and to elderly, but we have not enough or don't have a travelator at short distances for people in KL. So we can think of this in the future, because you don't want the old people to walk 200 meters. Is going to be tiring. And that comes to Architect Mustafa when he said the grounds were not even. I also was about to talk about walkways for old people, but I wanted to say sitting arrangement. There are not enough seats along the way. Even some supermarket, shopping malls do not have seats for old people. Old people legs get joints, get tired easily. So you must have actually provide enough seating for them to take a break. When they walk 200 meters, before they reach 50 meters, they may need to have two breaks or 3 breaks along the way. And that comes to another point, toilet breaks. Some old people cannot control their bladder. So you must make it easily accessible in these parks or green spaces to have one toilet or a few toilet facilities that can cater to the old people. You can't expect them to go back home to use your washroom or toilet and then come back again to the open spaces to do their community events or whatever they have to do. Now, staircase are too steep, already covered. Non-slip roads covered. Separate queues. Not every outlets or shops have separate queues for elderly. We have that in the banks, but it's not a common practice in shopping outlets or food outlets, fast food outlets, it's not a common practice to cater for elderlies to have a elderly queue for the elderlies, or disabled or OKU queue just for them. There is none. So we may have to think long term. You don't expect the old man to queue up 20 minutes, 15 minutes with the young people. And when you come to public transport, how are the old people going to push and pull? Now it's MCO, so many people tend to queue more. But when you, after the MCO, will people still practice this queuing system? Then will the old people have to push and pull to go on board the public transport? Or even if they have to queue, do they have to wait so long with the ordinary young people? Do we have a separate coach or separate section just for a few 10 or 15 elderlies to go on board before the rest of the young people can go on board? In some flights, when you take flights, before you fly, they will announce all the elderlies and the young, and those with babies, they come forward first. Maybe this should be a common practice for all of us in Malaysia here, that old people given priority in everything. Not in something, but in everything. Now, young people will not be happy with me, but we are looking at long term. Your dad, your mom, your grandparents are involved. We are looking at them. So we may have to look at this across a world wide view. We need multi-integrated ministries to work together. We may need the ministries to work together because it covers a lot. It's just not one ministry. You just talk to one minister and everything is workable. No, it's integrated. The walkways, the pathways, when all these PBTs, town councillors, when they approve these walkways or housing, or maybe they should make it a rule that the officer who's going to approve should take a wheelchair and go around in the wheelchair for half a day.
Yep.
Day before he approves. And if he can go around in his wheelchair for half a day around that new area that he's supposed to approve, then he can approve it. And if he finds any difficulty, I don't disagree that he approves it. He should make sure there is some changes, make sure there's something done, pembaikan or whatever, and then only you approve it. They themselves must sit on the wheelchair to move around. And that's my take.
Absolutely in agreement, Darren. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't disagree when Puan Karya already endorsed you 110%. So let's move to Dr. Siti before we move to another topic. Yeah. Dr. Siti, can you unmute?
Okay, yeah, sure. So what Darren mentioned just now is actually the integration of multi-ministry. I mean, each ministry, they have their own plan, but they didn't communicate with each other. And that's why, that's the outcome of that. We can see what happened to our countries. I mean, the planning, we have planning, but then when we didn't integrate, then we can see that it looks like they are not well planned. Okay, this is what we talk about, how we need to build the capacity of all, not just from the policymakers. It must involve with civil society and other stakeholders. I mean, for all the ministries, they may have the knowledge and tool, but to do this, to implementing this age-friendly city in urban communities, it is very important we involve all those local and national policymakers on understanding and implementing this disability inclusive developments, because we know that age-friendly cities should ideally inclusive and offer opportunities for all ages living in that city, not just focusing. I mean, I think currently all the development friendly for the teenagers, youngsters, but not mothers with infants, babies. You cannot move. When you push your push chairs, you cannot just walk easily, unless in the shopping complex, maybe quite easy, but not using public facilities like buses, transportation. Therefore, what I think is inclusive development here, we should recognize diversity, and we should involve everybody in the development process. It is crucial to raise awareness and build capacity of architects, designers, engineers, and product developers by integrating all this universal design. I'm not sure why. I mean, I've heard this from Madam Kharia, and last week we have our focus group discussion with different groups, and we all realize this. We have all planning, but why, when it comes to implementation, it didn't work. Okay, that is, I think, maybe now what we can see that it's not really we have emphasis on this age-friendly city by government agencies, policymakers, industries, but it is not widespread yet among our Malaysian citizens. That is very important, that we need to think how, if we want to implement this. And on another point, this is a high time for us. Darren mentioned just now about multimedia ministry, on how we can use ICT as enabler, and it is an important instrumental role in shaping urban spaces and urban living. I mean, we have, I think all older persons, the older persons right now, like Madam Kharia, all have smartphone. We don't have to do complicated advertisement or simple advertisement, but straight to the point, that they should get the point. And sometimes I know nowadays there are so many surveys that ask for feedback from older persons, that we could get that one way how to get their feedback on how we want to do this. I mean, I know sometimes surveys, they have a very long survey, but of course there are always ways on how to get high participation from them on giving this feedback. I mean, just now we see, as we can see, lots of countries like Madam Haria's favorite city, Melbourne, the facilities, and then she also said about the I don't know, what is it called? They can travel around the city. I mean, the
electric wheelchairs, you mean?
Electric wheelchair. I've seen that 10 years ago. I did my master's and PhD in UK. The older persons have traveled, have moved from shop to shop in the city since 10 years ago. But we haven't seen that in Malaysia yet. Because why? Because we know, of course, obvious reason, the infrastructure and everything is just not adapt. Yes, it's not ready. So why it takes so long? 10 years ago. It's not 10 years ago, it's almost 30 years ago. So
there you go. Can I add on to this one? I once actually called up my friends in a local authority. They were putting up new side road curbs, okay, at the Pasar section 6 Shah Alam. So you know which local authority it is now. I called up my planner friends. I said, since you're doing a new curb, make it pedestrian friendly, make it PWD friendly, make it elderly friendly, because a lot of elderly people actually go to Pasar 6 Shah Alam.
Yes.
Right? But you know what the response was? That's another department. You know, they cannot complain. So working in silos. And then, in the Shah Alam Park, there was a structure putting up, a nice bridge with whatever, you know, scenic route and all that. And I said, why do you still have the steps? This is an opportunity to make it PW friendly. Having universal design. They say, oh, that is another department. That's landscape department. We cannot comment on that, you know. So this is the problem when even within authorities, they're working in silos. Engineers not talking to planners, not talking to the architects, not talking to landscape architects. And so that's why we have all this infrastructure on which I showed you before. Okay, in Kuala Lumpur, in Penang, you name it, in Subang, in Shah Alam, everything is everywhere. They built new LRT station. It's disabled friendly inside the station, but when you go up, so the connectivity is not, exactly. And this is my greatest frustration. That's why my mom always say, tak apalah, I just duduk rumah, I wait to die. No, but I want to bring her out, but with a lot of difficulty. And I do bring her out, but it's with a lot of difficulty. Okay, I rest my case.
That's why, you know, many years ago, I actually involved in the selling and distribution of electric wheelchairs, not just the one that Ponkara showed. You know, independence for elderly is very, very important because it gives them booster, it gives them confidence. It also lengthens their life, you know. You know why? It's actually self-confidence. So if they can make a livelihood from whatever transportation that they have, it is one of the ways that we are helping them. So even not just talking about silorized working, in my opinion, under SDGs, is no point having the SDG 11, what I call it, sustainable communities or sustainable cities. SDG number 17 is the most important. Collaboration between others to achieve a goal. You have 17 goals to achieve. You need to learn to collaborate. You know, the Minister of Transportation had got to call me up because I used to sell electric bicycle, right? They want to ask me, is it safe to use electric bicycle? I said, no issue, because electrical bicycle goes only maximum 25 kilometers per hour, which is what? Very slow. So that's why this electric scooters also, the fastest that they can ever go is 12 kilometers per hour. So self-respect of other vehicles of the same space is very crucial here. We must learn to accept that there must be sharing of spaces. You don't expect you must have one for bicycle, one for wheelchair, one for elderly, one for handicap. You must learn to share. If you don't learn to share, we always say, what, sharing is caring, right? But we are not sharing. We are not caring. My sharing is you cannot share with me, but I want to share. So how? You have to learn to share, you know, and that's where we learn to collaborate, you know. So talking about, Puan Khaira was talking about the shop lots, right? Okay, the curve that are coming from one to the other level, right?
Yeah, why? Why? I've always wondered.
That one is, how should I say, question about design. But if you go to my design, if you go to Shah Alam, the Night Alam to be exact, from the car, you can actually build into the shop. Even though you have the curb line, you have the pathway, you have the shop lot, you straight away go curb in. So that's actually the development. So that is one example that we have shown in Shah Alam that it can be done. And people are happy doing, there are about 25 shops over there. And not just wheelchair, even your, what do you call it, the trundler, right? You can actually bring it from the car to the shop without having to actually lift the trundler. Imagine you want to lift a trundler, is about what, 100 kilos?
Yeah.
That's very, and you can even shuffle, or you can do a Michael Jackson moonlighting also if you want to.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Or back door, okay? So that's the way that I think.
But not all architects are like you. So perhaps Pam or Lembaga should do something about this, you know? You could put it in your building codes.
No,
and you're lucky because maybe MBSA allow you for that. So sometimes within MBSA pun, there would be the people from the building department who will still insist on the curbs, you know, going up the shop.
Talking about that, that's why we have a, especially International Islamic University, UIA, Datuk Asyah is actually pushing for access audit. So access audit means the simple reason is this: whenever we design, you must be able to take a pencil on your plan. If there is a line, you need to leave your pencil, that means your design doesn't work. That line is supposed to be just a line that draws between a space to another space, but in actual fact, on verticality in 3D, it's actually not separating the levels. It's actually just to indicate certain space. That's the reason why if you, when I go to Singapore, land at Changi, right? I used to try to do your hand luggage, okay? Hand luggage from the airport. There's only one place that I need to lift it up because of change of level. It is actually at the reception desk of the hotel. Otherwise, from the bus to the door, I just push. I don't have to lift anything. So that's the proof that it can be done. Is only your attitude, your aptitude, and also your thinking. That's as what Darren was talking about, civic, right? Civic education. This is the thing. Thank you.
So I think the point is clear now. We all have a good plan.
Very, I think if
we have a good plan, but then
we have a lot of blueprints. We have a good plan. We even have standards, you know, but we are very poor in execution. We are very poor in implementation. We need to get our acts together, you know. But before we I think one more important aspect of our discussion is I know we've touched base on this a few times among the panelists, is the emotions itself, you know, of the people, the psychological. I think at my aging, there has been some study on this. Even during COVID, I think there was some study that my aging did, trying to see the psychological of the age society, because they are the most vulnerable. I think we say that 6 out of 10 of the people who died because of COVID is quite a concern. So, but them living in a very fast moving world, everything is getting very high tech. And how does this kind of people feel? Because we talk about education just now, about people respecting elders. But it's also important for elders to have dignity, self-respect, because if we lose that, they are not able to also survive in the society. They need to feel that they are just as important. And how is that being done, especially, especially at the research side? Is there a lot of research on that from the
Yes.
aged care association? How do you do it? How do you instill that among the people living in your homes? So probably, doctor, from you first.
Okay, thank you, Puan Nurliza. I think maybe I can start. Can we say that for older persons, we usually heard life begin at 40.
Are you here?
Yeah, yes, I can hear
Yeah.
you. Can you hear me?
Can.
Yes. Can. Okay. So people said life begin at 40, but for older persons, their life begin at 60, because when they are retired, this is the time for them to to live freely. They said. Okay. So this is what we want to see as we don't want. I mean, there are several issues when they reach retirement age. They're like financial freedom, and also mental health. These are the common issues when you reach 60 years old. But however, with the current fast forward, very fast development in everything in the world, so we can see that they can age successfully. They can age with dignity. So we said it, aging successfully. So it just not that what this aging successfully mean. Actually, those that doesn't mean they have good physical and psychological health, but social support network is very important also for them to age successfully, to age happily, and in the same time they can live, they can still contribute. As we can see, Madam Haria, she's already 64 years old. Okay, my boss 62, and there are, and I mean, if you look at our politician, all are uh, older persons already should retire. I mean, so it doesn't mean when you reach 60 you just stay at home. So you still can contribute, and then but there are issues that we need to see. I mean, usually we, the younger generation, thought they cannot contribute and they just stay at home, be safe, and enjoy your own life at home watching TV or go to surau. But actually they need more than that. Okay, they still can produce. Okay, good social person report high. Okay, so one of okay, I mean, I think I saw in Mr. Mustafa Kamal slide, they like to age in place. They like to age in place. So they have this, what we call it as a sense of place. They're attached to where they are living. They want to enjoy. Then this sense of place, not just on their house, but also emotional, psychological, and symbolic attachment to home. So they are very close and to their network, to their neighbors. Okay, so therefore home and neighborhood are places full of experience. I mean, if you live in a urban like Melawati, I think lots of penduduk asal stay in Melawati. But due of the development, sometimes they limit their movement. They cannot go out as before. So this is very important. I mean, we need, when we design for urban cities, we need to consider this. We have to, yes, development is important, but we're developing while maintaining the sense of connection to the environment. We don't want to limit their movement. We don't want they feel isolated from the development and all. So yes, of course, I think not just all the persons. We feel that home is home is a place where we feel safe and secure, and we can retain a sense of independence and autonomy in the decision they make. So I think that is another important point that we need to think when we want to make urbanization is we have to respect the cultural diversity and promoting participatory design. So we have taman area, we have condominium area. So they have different background, they have different family. I mean, there are a lot. We cannot do urbanization for taman and replicate it in condominium. It will not reach the aim or objective of the urbanization and sustainable. It should be local environment specific. I mean, the common one like the pathway and everything is common. We accessible to all ages. That is what I mean, and I think that's all. I think everybody knows Mrs. Madam Haria is our very good example and how she's moved a lot in the cities. Okay, and then in the same times, she has a limited physical. I mean, due to growing age, numbers of health issues that she also has need to look after. Okay, so I believe Darren also, and he's in the aged care business, so he knows, he has lots of experience what the older persons in his institutions feel like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Thank you, Doctor. So yeah, Darren, maybe from your views.
I feel we lack the civic education. That's the main point. Because if everyone cares enough for elderly people, you wouldn't have people who build curbs without thinking of the elderly people. Everything boils down to education. It's no use I build user-friendly pathways, and just like Puan Kyra showed just now, they put the flower pots on the wheelchair pathway. That is education. I can build the best, and yet you go and hinder it by putting blockages. Even the grill on the grated grill, on the plot, that is just simple civic understanding. You know you're going to get trapped there. Why can't you build grills the sideway instead of this way, vertical way?
Yeah.
It all comes down to education. And I can have all the pathway for wheelchair bound, but vans, lorries will go on top of it for their convenience. So everything comes down to civic consciousness. Recently, there were 2 public holidays. I visited a friend during the public holiday, and I went to their new condo. They just moving in, and they had this huge swimming pool. So I went and visit, and then I saw one old man arguing with the guards. An old man arguing with the guards. Now, because of MCO, some condominiums have stringent laws prohibiting elderly 60 years old and above from using common facilities. You are allowing those 18 years and above to 60 years old to use the common facility, but you restrict the kids and the elderly people because you say it's MCO. Now, the pool was empty, and there's this old man, he wants to go into the pool. Now, if there was some civic consciousness on the part of the management of that condominium, he would have opened elderly's 2 hours for this time. You don't mix with the young people, you don't mix with, you think of the elderly, because that elderly, he can swim. Now you're restricting him from participating in an outdoor activity because you said you care for his health, you don't want him to be exposed to COVID-19. But at the same time, the pool is empty. So where does it, if there's some simple civic consciousness on people everywhere, then people think of the elderly first. Sometimes you have people who are so in tune with the elderly, they can build their structures, their homes their shopping malls super user friendly. But when you come to the people using it, the younger people who are using it, when you are catering for elderly, but the young people also want to use it, that's where your civic consciousness clash. You can prepare OKU seats or elderly people to have seats, priority to them. But young people will sit there and don't care when the old people with the tongkat standing in front of you. That again boils down to civic consciousness. So even if we do all this, if we do not start with educating the general public, we can have first world facility, but third world mentality, it will still not be able to cater for the elderly people. That's my take. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Darren.
Ladies
Thank you,
first.
Karya or Architect Mustafa.
I'll go for the round three, the psychological well-being of the elderly in urban areas. All right. So I'd just like to share a few things here that, next slide, please. These are the questions we'll answer. So we need to create places to facilitate the development of social capital and connection. The top figure photo is where I wheeled my mom. We went to Lake Gardens, Kuala Lumpur. It was an opportunity for me to also check out and audit the what do you call it, accessibility, mobility for people. All right, next please. And also places where the more able elderly could meet their friends in parks, gardens, public plazas, and spaces to allow these people to really enjoy themselves. And these are leading to the psychological well-being, self-esteem. Next, please. These are examples that I have. And also, you know, sports equipment for fit for the elderly, which are now being, what do you call that, installed in many, many parks and gardens by the local authorities. However, if you can have a designated area for the elderly, which is really, will be really wonderful, because most of the young people will be there and ignoring the older generation who wants to use this, you know, like Delron said, there's lack of civic consciousness, lack of prihatin, which is our motto for Merdeka this year. And yet we are not prihatin at all. Sometimes, Darren, sometimes when I get mad at this, I say, I wish these people would grow old and really face the brunt themselves, you know. I get, next please. Yeah, I get really annoyed. Of course, our coffee shops, you know, are places where people meet, and let them be there, let them meet and discuss the world, global affairs, you know, before they leave this earth. Next, please. So these are illustrations, but again, I was taking my mom to Port Dickson, you know, for her to have fresh air and whatever, to look at the beaches, the people, but I could not access the beach for her. She really wanted to go on the beach, but it would be difficult for her to walk or to take the wheelchairs. So again, this allows people to actually enjoy what they've missed for many, many years, especially when they're old. I love going to the beach, and I love soaking in this, but there are facilities overseas which are not available here. Perhaps we should think of these things that private sector could provide this, you know, rent it out. Next, please. Okay, what I want to talk about next is really, for the elderly, shopping is a social outing. You meet friends there, or you can go with, if your husband or wife is still alive, you can go together, but really, it is an access, a social event for them. I really looks forward to going to Giant or Tesco, and we can wheel her wheelchair. Next, please. But I've shown you some pictures earlier about shopping carts attached to this. But most important, seating areas in shopping malls are places to meet and chat. Not only that, what Delron said about the older elderly people needing more spaces to rest. Not many of our shopping malls have these rest areas. We are made to stand or wait for grandchildren or children shopping. So it's going to be quite tiring and cumbersome. Next, please. And I'd like to show you an innovation now. With COVID, we are given the lanes, next please, to actually queue before you go into the supermarket. The elderly, and I proudly show that, proudly claim that I am a warga emas, so I can get the faster lane, okay, to go into shops. Take advantage, but what the heck, I am 64. However, when you check out, you still have long queues to wait. So in many places, Tesco, Sainsbury's have actually given lanes, they call it relaxed lane, or lanes for customers, for slow, the elderly and PWs. You know why? When you're old, wanting to put your grocery shopping onto the conveyor belt is very, very, very slow. And then to put it in your shopping cart is again very, very slow. So these are elderly cars, so that you are not harassed by the young people in the queue that what is this old woman, you know, this makcik, please lah, don't go shopping lah, you know. But for us, it is an outing. It is something to, it's relaxing. So having, allowing or getting supermarkets to actually care for us, prihatin, again I use the word prihatin, our slogan for Merdeka 63 years, to have these, provide these lanes for us so that we don't have to stand too long, nor are we harassed by the young people who are behind us. Next, please. So, okay, pusat activity warga emas. I saw this in Putrajaya, but really it's so sad looking. There's nobody there. There's no facilities there. Although PJC provides this, I know Shah Alam has one, yeah. And but it's very important for our health and well-being to meet together, even if you are living in isolated homes. Next, please. And but we have really nice ones internationally. And I know Singapore has many, many community senior citizen centers which are actually integrated with the rest of the community. So we don't feel left out. We don't feel that, God, we are old, we're now like, facing death and, you know, we're leaving the earth soon. So yeah, you know, bypass us, do everything for the rest of society. But no, this is really integrated, inclusive. Next, please. And what do I have next? Slow slightly. And most important, garden centers. Yeah, in Singapore, they've done a lot of research. I don't know whether University Putra has done this, but gardening provides a lot of exercises, provides a lot of focus on the elderly, activity for them, having nimble fingers and all that. So it's a very, very good activity for the elders, but actually we need these spaces. Even condominiums could have that, rooftop gardens could have that, any little spaces for the elderly to get together and do these activities. Next, please. And so, yeah. So these are some of the things that we need, the integration of people into society. And the way forward, I think, is give greater attention to the needs of the elderly, because you will be one day. Delron, you're only 50. Yes, you're right. 10 years time will pass by so quickly. You will be one of us, okay? And 10 years time, I will be 74. So I don't know how I'll be, whether I'll be walking with a cane, but I hope to be still doing the Zumba, all right? And doing Michael Jackson's shuffle, all right? Moonwalk. But really, if that is allowed, we have to give greater attention. Like the Professor Dr. Siti was saying, our population, there's going to be a lot more, millions and millions of people. But at the moment, we are not prepared for elderly population. I rest my case. Thank you.
My take will be this way. As I presented earlier, right? They want confidence, they want independence, and they want respect.
Go ahead, Mus.
Okay, so for them to have that, I think the only way to solve it is, as I said just now, is the aptitude and your attitude. You know, I remember the days when I was in New Zealand studying, right? When you go to shopping, is what Ponkara shows all those about shopping, right? When there's an old lady in front of you, right? We see that the person behind her or behind him is helping the person in front to actually, you know, do the counting, do the packaging, so that what will happen? Your lanes gets faster, right? Rather than you bickering, oh, why is he so slow or something. So you, and at the end of the day, after that happened, your life becomes much more happier, right? Because you don't have high tension, you don't have hypertension, you feel happy, then you feel proud because the whole day you keep smiling because, oh, I did help the person. So what I'm trying to say here is we need to have that or instill that sort of thing in our education also, to think about the others first rather than us, because if you think of the others, everybody will think about you too. So I think that goes hand in hand with what we are trying to do here. And no point having all the technology in the world, but if the infrastructure and the ministries doesn't allow all those to be allowed on the road, it doesn't work. And if you want to have that facilities to be available, the way forward is we have to work with the Ministry of Finance. You know, some of the tax bracket, some of the duty excise for bringing those things to Malaysia is so high. Because I know, because I do that. So, you know, having to show that 60% of the taxes goes on that issue will make pricing high. So where is this, I call it the nurturing of new industries, you know, as for Associate Professor Dr. Siti, working in that elderly technologies, right? There will be no new technology, local technology that they can actually involve. Because, you know, why I want to create, talk about back Taiwan. They think about the elderlies. So there are new industries, computer based on that, the machinery based on that, the ecosystem thinks about it, the whole city thinks about it. They even ensure that the school is able to receive not just young people as students, elderly people as students also. So that's why they say continuing education. Education is from, they call it from your womb to the tomb, you know. So that's the reason why you have to keep on learning. And once you create that, that's why you can create better cities. And I would like you all to go to a place, sorry, I got to need, in the Nak Alam where I designed, it's actually where the parks, I know Ponliza knows that because she's one of the judges during that the year that the pathway in the parks that circumnavigates the whole Nak Alam is actually user friendly, and people have got places to stop and walk, and you can actually have places where you can mingle around. Because for the elderly, they need the young to be talking with them in order for them to go age longer, age stronger, and feel healthier. So that's the reason why we need to create environments. It's not just buildings, it's environment around the building. It's the spaces that's surrounding the buildings. So it is very, how shall I say, they call it placemaking. Nowadays, the word, the coin word is placemaking. So yes, it's not just the country is not doing it, but we need to strengthen and go deeper. I call it deep dive, they call it. No more talking at the surface, but go deep dive. Thank you.
May I?
Thank you very much.
Can I add a
Yeah,
bit?
okay, Doc. Okay.
Okay, so just to add
Right.
from Madam Haria point just now, yes, we have a therapeutic garden in our building, Malaysian Research Institute on Aging. We have integrated complex where we know that gardening is one of the therapy for older persons. They like to do gardening, and then not just to plant, but communicating. When they plant together and they talk, that is part of their social networking. So that is one on the garden. And the other one, Mr. Mustafa Kamal mentioned just now about continuing education. So we also have, we also promote, I mean in RMK 11 it's been mentioned active aging. So one way of them is through lifelong learning. So we have University of the Third Age, school for older persons. And you can see they come to class learning dancing, learning cooking, and all sorts of, like a student, and they enjoy it very much because of their, I mean they learn together. Them, of course, this is part of their social activities.
Yeah.
Okay, and then at the end of the classes they have a graduation. Okay, and I mean if you have heard about, they are called as University of the Third Age Malaysia. Okay, Third Age refer to that. And then what is the other point I forgot just now? And then when you talk about the Nak Alam just now, but the importance of intergenerational, I mean they need to
Correct.
yes, not just their age, but from kids. And then these studies have been conducted in many countries, and they are happier through these intergenerational activities. Okay, so basically, I mean, all of these are interrelated in agencies and CSOs, and everybody plays important role in if we want to age successfully. Because thank you.
I totally agree with that part about social connection between the young and the old. I have this university, AIMS University, students coming to my Pusat Jagaan to do gotong royong. They used to come to do gotong royong, but I stopped them. I told them, it's better you don't do the gotong royong. but you students spend time sitting down with the elderly to chit chat with them. They have a lot of things to talk to you about, but you all do the gotong royong doesn't help the elderly to communicate. They will see you doing work, you come take pictures, and then you go back, you feel happy. But to make the old elderly people happy is you sit beside them, squat down or sit down on the floor beside them, chit chat with them. They will tell me, we don't know what to say. Just introduce yourself. The old people will have a lot of things to share to you. Your experience you get, the wisdom you get from them can even help you in your future. So yes, I totally agree on that.
Yeah. Okay. I think thank you so much to the panelists. I think we've got a very, very active discussion. One of the best discussion, actually. I never realized that this topic is really getting not only attention from the panelists, but attention from our viewers. We've got a very active chat room and a very active Q&A room. And I'm sure in the Facebook also, people are wishing that they could actually ask questions. So some of the questions actually have been discussed by the panelists, especially a lot of the comments that are being made to infrastructure. There are comments with people wanting the city to have more continuous walkways, and there's a lot of issue. There's some comments asking for us to do a pilot and to try out some of these ideas that the panelists have been giving since beginning. I would say a lot of them are comments, and in terms of question, there are questions with regards to taxes. One question whether or not we should put a tax, to people, probably from that goes specifically into our age. I mean, that's actually what our EPF is supposed to do for us. It's supposed to be our saving for our when we grow old. But that is only but it's being used now that it's being split to 3 accounts. We are using it for everything. I guess the question here is whether or not we could actually tax, and probably that tax goes towards building infrastructure or building homes specifically for the aged society. So that's one question there, if anyone wants to have a view on that.
Okay, I would like to relate to you one country, again, to Taiwan. At the age of 65, right, every citizen of 65 years old and above is given 500 ringgit for them to spend their whole life. So every month they're given 500 ringgit because you already achieved 65 in the country, and they respect that you already contributed to the economy during your younger years. So now is your time that the state give you back. So that's the respect that the state even gives to the people in the irrespective whether you're handicapped or elderly. But the moment you reach 65, okay, so they got that sort of social security. So I don't know. Like Darren was saying, got a lot with Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat, JKM, all sort of thing. No, that should not be also, because I know when I was selling this sort of equipment, right, there are officers in JKM who can physically see the person cannot even go up the staircase, but their office is at level 4, and they say you are not entitled to get electric wheelchair because you can still earn your living, but you can see that person cannot even walk up the stairs. I cannot comprehend how they actually evaluate that sort of requirement. I don't know whether the is only looking at the numbers or looking at the humanity. I'm not sure. So that's the reason why education, empathy is very, very important. And I think there's no point being so first-class country, but when it comes to even your mentality and attitude, you go down the drain. I don't know how to handle this situation anymore. Thank you.
Another question is being maybe because we don't have to have all panelists. I mean, you can comment if you want as I read some of the questions, because I would like to make some of the discussions heard. One of the questions is also asking for quick wins, because after listening to all this that we've heard, some takes a longer time to be done. In some of the panelists' mind, what would be some 3 quick wins that we could do to fasten this? Some are even saying that 10 years is not long, and if we are targeting 10 years, we should do it now then. So what are the quick wins?
Can I say something on that? One quick win is to get the ministry to amend the Disabled Act to include elderly. All right, and they can define whatever age, maybe I'm 75 and above, if they want to be able to get the disabled stickers, number one. Number two, KPKT, that is Ministry of Housing and Local Government, through the Jabatan Perancang Bandar, could include guidelines on setting up of aged care homes within condominiums and all that, maybe in place of it together with kindergartens dengan apa tu? The child care centers, yeah. And another quick win, of course, is to get, but this may be slow, but it can be done if there's a willpower in it, to give grants for people who take care of their parents to at least renovate their homes to include ramps and larger doors to the bathroom and toilets. Very quick, three quick win things. And it can be done through the KPKT. I think the funds are there. It's a matter of doing the guidelines or the legislation for it, okay? That's my take on it, yeah.
From my side, okay, especially with buildings, right, with a lot of parking spaces, and a lot of these parking spaces, only the posh cars get the parking right at the door. So we need to actually amend this thinking, or else they call it whether you are mentally retarded or physically retarded or attitude retarded. So one way is, remember, not just elderly handicapped person who drive alone or will get their parking closer to the gate, but the person who drives these old people to the shopping mall must have that opportunity to park close by too. Don't expect them to park a kilometer away and bring them to the main door. So it has to be that, they call it caring, kesedaran. In fact, I think a sticker for that has got to be made juga, rather than just for the person self-driving, the person that's assisting to drive that sort of people. So this is one way of actually instilling, and the government must provide through carrot and stick. I think that's the fastest way. If you provide carrot and stick, people will want, either developer ke, even the private sector ke, individual ke, you name it, you go. You know what? If you have a tax bracket, I'll go for it, because that's the incentive I get. So after incentive has already finished off, then the mindset has already set. Then I think that's much easier to handle. Thanks.
Quick win, housing, PKBT, they can legislate that all new housing developments user friendly, and before the approval can be given, the town councillors must be able to use their wheelchair on those areas. Second one, multimedia, 20 seconds, 30 seconds bombardment of caring for elderly. Like now, we have 20 seconds short clips on radio. When you're in the jam, you hear about COVID, wash your hands, wear the mask. Do this, instill that kind of mentality in all the stations, Chinese, Tamil, Malay, English, all the stations, taking care of the elderly. What have you done today? Do something good for the elderly today. What have you done? Something like that. So do this kind of bombardment, multimedia. That is one quick win. You get people to practice it. What have you done today? And finally, and finally, another quick win will be education, children. Do a program or start having programs for children to interact with elderly. If you want to do civics education, that will take a long term. But you can have now programs with the elderly. Instead of just bringing them to the zoo, bringing them to the park, have programs with the elderly. Interact to that.
Okay.
One of the co-curriculum activities, every single clubs or association or the school persatuan have one activity with the elderly. That is a quick win.
Sorry, Puan
Doctor,
Noriza.
any quick wins from you? Yeah, Cik Mus.
Sorry.
Ada idea baru?
Because because I'm representing the practitioners from the built environment, especially architects, planners, engineers. They also must have that intuition to actually be design sensitive towards this elderly and also universal design and friendly. Kalau kita tidak, very difficult to actually make the environment that way. Okay, sorry, Doctor.
I mean,
Yeah,
just to
Doctor.
add, Darren point on multimedia, I think it's very good approach. It's short but regular. I mean, daily basis, not just seasonal. Seasonal, people then tend to forget. But then if you do it every day, yes, it's easier to get the attention for all ages of group. Not just on
Absolutely
elderly,
right.
yes, not just on elderly, but our initiative about this urbanization, urban cities, age-friendly cities and all.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I know you are dying to say a lot more, and all our viewers are actually, a lot of them are enjoying the discussion that we are having. Some agree, a lot of them agree, a lot of them has a lot of ideas to give. But we've actually almost out of time. We are 1 minute to 12 p.m. I just like to do a wrap up. One, definitely will make the slides available to all the participants that have logged in. So thank you to the panelists that has already prepared slides. But if not, we'll be actually putting all these notes together and we'll share it with you. We'll probably be putting it up. As you know, we are going into our Malaysia Urban Forum, so definitely these are our points for discussion. But a quick wrap up on what our 4 fantastic panelists have been saying is, one, in terms of legislation, regulations and policies. There needs to be a lot more work that we need to do that. We need a national framework, and this national framework needs to look into the integration by the various ministries. So there was a lot of ministries that were named just now. So this input by different multi-ministries and agencies are required in order for us to prepare some form of a national framework. Second, I think there's a lot of discussion on planning and design, and be it in terms of standards, also in terms of integrating all the efforts that's already been done today, because just now we acknowledge that we have Malaysian standards, we have some guidelines here and there, but the integration of all this is probably not well done, or even if it's done, it's not well done, properly built. So we talk about audits, assess audits on auditing the facilities, putting the people on wheelchairs, as Darren said, councillors, inspectors to actually look at all these areas. And another one is a lot of discussion on guidelines, which is part of the quick wins that has been mentioned by the panelists. Some are already in place. Maybe we need a quick relook, integrate it back. And these guidelines should not only cover public areas, common areas, buildings, but also the home care itself, and zoning legislation in our blueprints, how to allow for such facilities in our cities. And the third point that a lot of people were talking about is localization. I put it under that heading because that's one of the key thing in our new urban agenda. And in localization, we talk about first the enabling environment. So much discussion on that. And this talks about our built environment itself, how to have a seamless, connected built environment, open and social spaces, street designs which are more friendly, adaptive reuse of spaces that could be turned into elderly facilities, shared streets, and housing designs that need to be relooked, and the need for funds, incentives to be given to remodel our homes. But I think one key issue is funding. How do we fund all this? So there was some discussion from the chat room talking about how we even tax people, how we take funds from elsewhere to allocate for building some of these enabling environments. Another important factor in localization is engagement, awareness, and this is highlighted many, many times by Darren. He hasn't stopped from the minute he was given the floor. He talks about education, and moral education, civic education, and we should be doing that through all kinds of means, media, uh, 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 school education, and all forms. And this is where the role of ministries, local governments, and everyone that is involved in enabling this education to happen. And there are some also proposals that we look at the Japanese system, how these educations are also done from in early education for children in Japan. And another localization aspect is the ICT assisted. And Dr. also raised that, we could use IT, we could use technology to reach out, to do survey, to understand better the situation of our people, to create awareness, So, and also to use technology and IT to provide, easy, how would I say, information to the elderly as well as to communities about these issues that we are facing. And last but not least, the third most important point that we have been discussed is, of course, the well-being of the elderly itself. And this is where I like the phrase "life begin at 60." So no longer is life begin at 40 becoming sexy. I think life begin at 60 is sexy and important. I live in an intergenerational home myself. My mother is there, my children, and I've got my grandkids in the house. I totally agree that psychologically it is definitely much happier when you have an intergenerational kind of living situation. It can be very messy at times, noisy, and just want to us. So I think she's a happier person and she doesn't want to go home. So I think talking about independence, respect, confidence, dignity, it's so important for our elderly. And point taken that we need to age gracefully, age successfully, and in order for us to do, we have a support system. And I like I think that's so important. Not every people likes to move around or move out of a neighborhood, move out of their comfort zone. And aging in place is just as important. And we need that support system to make that happen. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot of things. In the end of the day, how to make elderly people feel very inclusive in cities and also rural areas. We didn't discuss that very well. I hope that when we talk in the Malaysia Urban Forum, we should touch a little bit about the elderly in the rural areas. We've done for 2-hour discussion. I thank the panelists. Thank you very, very much for wonderful quotes. Everyone was just spot on. I don't think there was a word that you were repetitive. So it's really great discussion. And this will be our baseline for our roundtable discussion in the Malaysia Urban Forum. And that's going to happen. Our MUF2020 is from 28 to 30th September. But for the roundtable on age friendly, it will be at on the 30th September at 12 p.m. And we'll be doing that physically from Bangunan Sulaiman as well as virtually online. So we'll be touching base with all of you that has signed in. And I'm so blessed to see that the numbers people that have been online with us, we have not lost them, Sometimes you lose people after a while, but we've been able to keep our listeners in for the last 2 hours. So that's all from me. Thank you so much. Thank you from Urbanice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day, you all. Pleasant to know.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for the invitation. I have great time too, knowing new people today, and I've met Darren lots of times. But thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you once again. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.